again to Real Shame, a show where the two of us talk about the two of us, that is the not two other guys that are here. The two of us talk about our list of movie blind spots or list of shame. My name's Andy.
And I'm Adam.
And this week we're going to talk about a couple of movies that are from my list of shame. So let's get right into it.
That's right.
Adam, what movie are we talking about today?
All right. H.G. Wells pursues Jack the Ripper through time in Time After Time.
May I help you?
I'm certainly willing for you to try. I'm looking for a man, another Englishman like me, who may have tried to exchange some money here.
I'll say.
Then he was here?
Yesterday afternoon, big as life, with a money belt that was even bigger. Must have weighed a ton. Friend of yours?
We were traveling together, and now I've lost him. His name was John Leslie Stevenson?
That's him, all right. I tried to get him to open an account with us, but he only cashed a couple $100 worth.
You wouldn't happen to know what's become of him, or where he's got to, I mean.
Well, as a matter of fact, he asked me to recommend a hotel.
An hotel?
So I sent him to the Hyatt Regency on Drum Street.
Hyatt Regency?
Time After Time came out in 1979. It is written by Carl Alexander, Steve Hayes, and Nicholas Meyer. He's the reason why I chose the movies for this week. It's also directed by Nicholas Meyer. You're like, Nicholas Meyer, who's that? Well, he brought us the best Star Trek movie ever, and that's Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan. And also, Khan. He also brought us another Star Trek movie, which is Star Trek IV, The Undiscovered Country.
4's The Voyage Home.
Oh, no.
Six is Undiscovered Country.
6. I got my Roman numerals backwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
6, The Undiscovered Country. Nicholas Meyer, the story behind making Wrath of Khan is very interesting, and I think only he could have put everything together. Basically, there was like 7 scripts, and they brought him on. They're like, ignore all these scripts, and he didn't listen to the studio. He goes, I'm gonna pick the best from all these scripts and make one movie. And being a writer and director, he was able to kind of make something that was cohesive from that and made a really good movie, the best film Star Trek movie. He has a book called like Notes from the Bridge or something like that. I have it in the other room. It's a really good book, really good tale of Nicholas Meyer. Listen to him talk about Star Trek II in person and all that kind of stuff. So I'm a big fan of him. I think he's a good writer and director. But I've not seen any of his other movies. Just based off of Wrath of Khan, I was like, I like this guy. But we're fixing that this week with Time After Time. Basically, what am I going to say? The movie stars one Malcolm McDowell as H.G. Wells, the author. It stars David Warner as John Leslie Stevenson, a.k.a. Jack the Ripper, and one Mary Steenburgen as Amy Robbins. It's a movie that we both haven't seen, but it's your week, so I'm going to toss it over to you. Do you like the Cyndi Lauper song? And what did you know about this movie before watching it? And what did you think about the movie after watching it?
I do kind of like the Cyndi Lauper Time After Time song. Yeah.
The bop.
This is a movie that I've been aware of for many, many years, but I've just never gotten around to seeing it. I was aware kind of the story. I did know that it combined H.G. Wells and Time Machine and Jack the Ripper. I mean, they were both real life characters, obviously. So, but I remember I was aware that he followed him to the future and that he met a girl. I actually didn't realize that it was Mary Steenburgen, or I didn't know going into the movie that it was Mary Steenburgen. But I kind of knew basically what the story was just from this movie having been around for so long. So yeah, finally got a chance to dive into it and was excited to see it, but was kind of let down by the result. I think the movie is... I think the premise is intriguing, and I think it's a cool story, but I just think the execution of it is... once again, we mentioned last week when we did Bullet. Bullet takes place in San Francisco, and you get a lot of shots of late 60s San Francisco. Yeah. This movie's perfect if you're fascinated with San Francisco from the late 70s, then you certainly get a lot of it. So again, that aspect of it is cool. But I just thought like the pacing, I thought it was kind of slow, and I understand it's an older movie, so it's not going to be as fast paced as movies of today. But I thought even by 1979 standards, I thought the pacing was a bit slow. I wish that it would have been, I don't know, more of a, and this is just me wishing, I realize, but I wish that it would have been more of a thriller and less of a love story, a romantic love story. I didn't really get into that so much. You and I, although we don't talk about the movies before we film this, we did both kind of mention that Mary Steenburgen is weirdly super attracted to Malcolm McDowell, which I find
both in real life and in fiction.
Yeah, because apparently they did marry or whatever you said after this film, but I find that weird, honestly. But hey, whatever floats your boat, and she does like time travelers, as we say, because she's in Back to the Future 3 with Doc Brown. But yeah, the movie's very just ho hum to me. I didn't like it. Malcolm McDowell, get a change of clothes, because I think he wore the same outfit the whole time he was there.
Yeah, but David Warner, when he was wearing that G number with the fanny pack, that was interesting.
At least at least when he went to the future, he's like, you know what, I'm gonna change my threads. Malcolm McDowell's like, I'm wearing this old timey suit.
He got $25
Mary Steenburgen could have bought him something. She worked at a bank. She's like a supervisor,
steel buddy or whatever.
Yeah, well, something. I mean, surely she made plenty of money, but no. I mean, obviously I'm just being silly in that criticism, but he was really frustrating to me as far as kind of some of his actions, some of the way it took him forever to do certain things. I also thought he ran really funny when he's like running after David Warner's character, and I like David Warner a lot, and I think he's good, as Jack the Ripper. But yeah, the movie just was a letdown for me. The most intriguing thing about it was, again, I think the premise is cool. The setup is cool. I like time travel stuff.
Yeah.
But this just did not scratch that time travel itch for me. Not in a good way. What about you?
So I agree with you pretty much 100% about it. I think the premise is awesome. I thought something really interesting was going to happen because when they travel. So we're spoiling the movie, obviously, because it's our featured review. But he travels to show Mary Steenburgen, Amy, that he can time travel. They travel a couple days in the future, and they realize that she's going to get killed.
Yeah.
And I thought it was going to be really interesting in the fact that it was going to be something that was destined, and they can't really change time.
Yeah.
Because he goes back, obviously, and you see pictures of him older, and he writes all these stories. So I thought there's going to be something really interesting that said it's like, all this stuff is kind of in concrete, and he can't really change it.
Yeah.
It didn't really go that way.
And any attempts to change it, still, you can't. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like a Final Destination thing, right? You try to get off the plane, but then you're killed by a semi-truck with giant logs on the back of it or whatever, right?
Right.
I think that would have been interesting. Again, it's not this movie. I love the premise. The premise is so interesting. It's just like, it's almost like a Lead an Extraordinary Gentleman, which I know you haven't seen, kind of thing where you grab all these desperate kind of real life characters and then put them together in like an action-y kind of movie. Mm-hmm. And I would really like to see something done with this premise where it's like someone like a ruthless killer commandeers the time machine, and he has to go and figure out what's going on and chase him down. Like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
To me, this plays like a TV movie. Like, it feels like everything, like, the violence is pulled back a little bit. There's some parts that's like, but some parts it feels like over the top violence. Like, what was the movie we watched? Was it Mommy Dearest? No, it wasn't Mommy Dearest. The one where the three daughters and the
Home for the Holidays.
The scary Home for. It's kind of like that. It feels like that kind of vibe, right? Yeah. Where it feels very like ABC movie of the week kind of movie, right? Which I feel like it's to its detriment a little bit on this. And like you said, some of the stuff like that H.G. Wells does, he doesn't make the smartest decisions that I think he would make from that. I mean, because he seems... Because both those characters are both, like, intelligent and capable, and they realize, like, hey, we're going to the future, and things are going to be different, and they cope well with that change of situation, but I still think they would be smarter to kind of do things in different ways than we see on the screen, right? Mm-hmm. But I do like the scene where he, like, watches her drive a car, and he's like, oh, this is kind of how you drive a car. Like, you can see him kind of, like, methodically figuring out how to get by, and like he listens in on the McDonald's order and stuff like that. So I think those are great ideas. I just wish the movie did more with those, right?
I did like the part where he said, "I ate at that Scottish place earlier, McDonald's or
the
whatever."
Googles or whatever.
Yeah, that was pretty
That was
funny.
funny. Yeah. So yeah, there's aspects of it I like, but overall I'm with you. It's kind of not great. It's just cheesy a little bit, and I do think with you, like sometimes it's like, okay, are we gonna actually visit every bank in San Francisco, or you know what I mean?
Man, that movie was sponsored by the San Francisco Tourism Board or
Yeah.
something, because they show a lot of, which is, again, it's cool. I like when movies shoot on location, and they shoot very much on location, because again, things change over time. San Francisco of 2022 doesn't look like San Francisco of 1979, so it's cool to have that sort of thing on record, whether it's in a documentary or in a film. But yeah, as far as it causes the story perhaps to suffer.
Yeah,
some.
for sure. What was the other thing? I was gonna say her apartment, if it's near that place, I forgot the name of it that they go by. I'm like, oh, it's got to be a pretty expensive apartment.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I fell with it. I like you. I was kind of disappointed by it. I think I had a little bit higher hopes, just because, like I said, I hold Nicholas Meyer in a higher esteem than I think most people do, and all that kind of stuff. I did want to point out some trivia I pulled for this movie. So apparently Malcolm McDowell listened to recordings of H.G. Wells to prepare for the role, but Wells's voice was supposedly really high pitched and cockneyed. So Malcolm McDowell's like, no, we're not going to do that.
Hello there.
Yeah. If you like accents, wait till Wednesday's movie.
I'm looking for Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, because we have a bunch of those. So Mary Steenburgen's character's A.B. Robbins, and if you're familiar with H.G. Wells at all, you realize that A.B. Robbins is the name of H.G. Wells' second wife. So that's kind of cool that they kind of brought that in there.
Yeah, I did not know what his wife's name was, but afterwards I did read that Amy Robbins was, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
She went back in time with him.
Yeah.
He got her from the future.
Yeah.
Neat.
That's what Doc Brown did.
Right.
I guess Doc Brown stayed.
Yeah, Doc Brown stays behind.
So I like, again with you. I think this obviously has been remade. It was like a TV show in 2017, which I haven't seen and you haven't seen.
Apparently nobody saw it because it didn't last long.
But if they remade this movie, I wouldn't be mad. Like I think there's pieces on this movie that you can do differently, and it's an interesting enough premise to see it rendered in a different way. So
I agree. I think they should remake it. Honestly, I thought the same thing when I was watching it, and I didn't know at the time that they tried or they did like a TV show of it. But I think it needs a movie budget, and I haven't seen the show. You haven't seen the show, but I did read maybe one or two little reviews or skim one or two little reviews, and people were complaining that they tried to draw it out too much in the show. So just remake the movie, do it better, and nobody will get hurt.
You know who'd want to do this movie? Chris Nolan.
Yeah,
he loves time movies, right?
He does, yeah, all that kind of stuff.
After Oppenheimer, this is the next movie, which is about atomic bomb. You should remake Time After Time, Mr. Nolan. I know you watch.
and make sure to put, you didn't mention the cast, make sure to put Corey Feldman in it. Corey Feldman is in this movie as a wee lad. He's a little boy.
He can reprise his role.
Yeah, he has like one line. He's like, Mommy, what's that man doing?
We can Irishman. The other thing that I think is interesting too is like, you hear a lot of time travel movies where they talk about like obviously the Earth rotates around the sun, and so so the position that the time machine's in, whenever it goes into the future, like the exact geographical coordinates like in the universe, the Earth might not be in that position wherever it lands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I do like that this movie happens when he winds up in San Francisco because of, I like that he's in a different location, because I feel like that kind of takes into account that a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, they play with the time difference, because he's like, oh, it's 8 hours earlier or later than I expected. And if you look over in England, that's what time it'd be earlier.
Yeah, there's some good ideas here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, I think the execution, not so much.
I agree. All right. What are the reviewers on this movie?
It is 87% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's really high.
72% audience. Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs up, and Gene Siskel picked this as number 9 on his top 10 movies of the year. Do you have any idea what he picked as number 1?
Hair?
Hair, the musical Hair. Gave it away there. Yeah, he picked
did.
Hair as the best movie of the year. But yeah, this was number 9 on. It did not make Roger Ebert's top 10 list, but it made Siskel's list at number 9. Leonard Maltin gives it 2.5 out of 4 stars.
Yeah, both movies this week are really popular with the critics and the people. So maybe like the late 70s was a different time for cinema.
Maybe so.
All right. Well, that was our thoughts on Time After Time on these Mondays episodes. We always like to talk about what we've been watching. And so I'm going to toss it over to you because I'm curious about the second movie you have on your list about what you've been watching.
You're not supposed to look at my notes.
Oh, no, I forgot. I'll cover my eyes.
Okay. So the first movie I watched is an animated movie that came out, I think, last year, maybe the year before, but I can't ever tell.
It looks...
All these years kind of run together.
So weird to me.
And it is weird. It's called Crypto Zoo. So the Crypto Zoo came out, and another movie called The Spine of Night came out.
Yep.
And they're both kind of adult animated fare. So, you could watch
like
Luca and Encanto and Mitchell's versus the Machines, or you could watch Crypto Zoo or The Spine of Night. I haven't watched The Spine of Night, but I decided to watch Crypto Zoo because, for one thing, I saw that it was on Hulu and was kind of interesting. It's weird. But that's not what turns me off about it because, I don't mind movies being weird. But I don't really like the story that much. I would say it's worth a watch, especially if you like heavy metal and wizards and, the original kind of old late 70s Lord of the Rings and Hobbit animated films. If you like that sort of thing.
Franklin Bass? No, not Franklin Bass.
I know they're like Fire and Ice is one from the early 80s. If you like those, or Ralph Bakshi movies, like Heavy Traffic, I think is one, and stuff like that. If you like that sort of thing, I think Crypto Zoo might be up your alley. And again, I like some of those older animated films too, but this movie is just, the story's kind of interesting, but just overall, it's only like 90 minutes, but I still felt like it was kind of a chore to get through.
I will say, when I watched the trailer, which was 2 minutes, I was like, did 30 minutes pass by?
Yeah. And also, so it has some big name voice acting in it, but some of the voice acting I thought was poor.
Yeah.
And it's from people that are well-known actors and actresses, but some of it I was like, it feels like they weren't even trying.
Yeah.
Like they were like, hey, we need you to get in the sound booth and record some dialogue for this movie. And they were like, okay, I'll do it. And, and it's just kind of like, yeah. Anyway, so it was a miss for me, but your mileage may vary. The other movie I was going to mention, and the one that you're curious to hear about, is called Titan, if I'm saying that correctly. It's a French film. It means titanium, but it is very strange. It's a very weird movie about a lady who has relations with a car. And then it just goes from there. So I knew, and I don't think that's a spoiler. I think kind of that's what the movie is kind of known for, kind of going into it. But once again, I think I saw it was on Hulu, and I was like, I heard it was good, right?
Yeah.
It's gotten some critical acclaim, so I thought I would watch it. It's from the same director that did the movie Raw, which I wasn't a fan of, but also that movie got a lot of acclaim as well. So I sat down, I watched, I'll just say Titanium, so I won't butcher the pronunciation, and I actually really liked it, and that was surprising to me because you think with a movie where what happens and it happens, you think with that there's not much you can do with that movie, but I feel like the movie goes way, way deeper than that, and it's actually kind of touching. There's parts of the movie which I found to be moving. I thought it was really interesting. It's a well done movie, very well constructed. There's some great cinematography in it. There's some good music in it. The performances by everybody involved I thought were good. So it's not just a gimmicky movie, which is exactly what I thought it would be. Just like, okay, there's the gimmick that she has sex with a car and, this weird thing happens. But there's so much more depth to the movie than that. I honestly would put it on my top 10 list of the year. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, that's what I've heard similarly from other reviewers. So
yeah, it's good. I would recommend it to certain people. Not everybody, but I would recommend it to certain people.
Kind of like Spring, like you said.
Kind of like Spring. Yeah. Well, Spring is more accessible, I think, than this movie. But yeah, this movie's weird, but if you stick with it, you might be rewarded, like I was.
All right.
All right, what about you?
So I watched some movies that I know you've also seen. So we'll just kind of go through them again. Like you, we're kind of trying to work our way through some of the best pictures, some of the movies that have been put up for these different awards since it's kind of award season right now. So I watched Nightmare Alley, which I think is streaming on Hulu and HBO Max. And I know you've seen that. It's not. I don't. My biggest issue with Nightmare Alley is I just feel like we spend so much time before we get to before we get to the actual plot of the movie, right? So I just feel like all the time prior to when he meets Kate Blanchett's character is just it's supposed to be building up Bradley Cooper's character, but honestly it just feels wasted to me. And I feel like it could have been really shortened. And I know a lot of different reviewers that I've heard talking about the movie feel differently. Like they like that you spend a lot of time, you get to know his character. For me, it just felt like I kept on like, okay, when are we going to get into the meat of things? Like, I just feel like, okay, we keep on building up, but when are we going to get to what's interesting? And so by the time we got to what I felt like is the story, the Kate Blanchett and all that stuff, I just kind of like, it lost me. So it wasn't for me. I didn't really care for it. Where'd you fall in Nightmare Alley?
It wasn't for me either. It's way overblown. It's way too long. I don't mind the first part of the movie. I think the first part of the movie is more interesting than the second.
Yeah.
When it does kind of get into the meat of the story, as you say, I found that story kind of lackluster. I honestly don't like Bradley Cooper's performance all that much in the movie, and I don't like Rooney Mara's performance that much in the movie either. I also think she is pretty much wasted in this film.
She doesn't
their relationship is not developed to the. It's very undercooked. It's not developed to the extent that it needs to be for the type of story that they're telling. But yeah, this movie at 2.5 hours is like an hour too long or 45 minutes too long. It just goes on forever, and it's pretty to look at. I don't know that I Guillermo del Toro. I was about to call him Tormo. Guillermo del Toro, I think, is a very talented filmmaker, and he's clearly a guy that has a love of movies. I've listened to commentaries and interviews with him, and this is a guy that is passionate about movies and loves movies, and I love to see that. Right? I mean, it's great because you know that he has seen all kinds of older films, and I mean, he really knows what came before him. So I admire that greatly. And some of his movies I really, really like, and I appreciate the dedication and the time that he puts into these movies. And I know this, I'm sure this was a labor of love, like all of his movies. And it's pretty to look at, and it's got some attractive people in it, but it's just is a waste of time to me. I haven't seen the original film. I would like to see the original film, and I have a copy of it laying around somewhere. I suppose I should get on that. But yeah. It's again, this was a big misfire for me.
Yeah, for me, I agree with that. I feel like he needs to be reined back in a little bit. It's almost like he makes movies that only he really wants to see, and I don't feel like those really resonate outside of like a small group of people, right?
Yeah.
I haven't seen Shape of Water, but I know didn't that win an Academy Award?
I believe it
won Best Picture. Yeah. Like I haven't seen that, and I haven't seen the Crimson Peak, or like the ones that I haven't seen, but I kind of liked him better, like with the Hellboys and
Kronos. I know
Kronos is my favorite movie he's done. It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. Yeah, I think Kronos is really good. So and you know, if it has Ron Perlman in it, it's got to be a Guillermo del Toro movie,
right? Well, and Nightmare Alley has Mary Steenburgen in it.
Yeah,
I just thought of that. Yeah, not in a big role, but she's in it as well.
But I do think I like Bradley Cooper as an actor. I think the side people shine more. Like I think Willem Dafoe shines more. I
love his character.
I think Kate Blanchett shines a little bit more. I think Mary Steenburgen, whoever her husband is in it, right? Because she's the
David Strathairn, who I also love. Yeah.
I think on this one, like it's kind of like the background characters are far more interesting than you see with the two main characters. So I agree with that.
Yeah, I think I agree with that as well.
The other movie I watched is Tragedy of Macbeth. I think this one's nominated for Best Picture for this year. So watch that. And I don't think I've seen any rendering of Macbeth before. So I think, the hardest thing with Shakespeare adaptations, modern Shakespeare adaptations for me is that it's the dialogue is so dense. and it's really hard to kind of keep up with the way the keep up with what's going on because the dialogue is so foreign and it's so dense and it's such like a wordy kind of production. But I think overall I liked it. I like Denzel a lot. I wasn't his biggest fan of Frances McDormand in it. I think the witch lady is crazy and crazy looking, and the way she's rendered
that was good casting to me. Yeah,
and it reminds me a lot of like that Hamlet we did with Laurence Olivier, where it's it's like kind of it's almost like a dream. Like the sets are kind of realistic, kind of not realistic, and all that kind of stuff. And it is shot all in black and white. So I think it's good. Like I'm almost like too good or ambivalent about the movie. I don't hate that we spent some time watching it, but I do think like it feels slow even though it's really short. But I think that's the nature for me with all Shakespeare movies is they always feel very they feel longer than they actually are and stuff like that.
Yeah, Shakespeare, just like studying it in school, I feel like you have to dedicate more time. Like Shakespearean movies or Shakespeare movies, I almost feel like you need to watch more than once to get more out of them. Yeah, I liked Tragedy of Macbeth, okay, and I'm not sure if I've seen any of the other Macbeth adaptations. I've seen plenty of Romeo and Juliet, and I feel like I've seen plenty of Hamlet, and even, King Lear and stuff like that, but I don't know that I've seen, because I haven't seen... Like Roman Polanski did a Macbeth. I haven't seen Orson Welles did a Macbeth. I'm not sure that I've seen that. So this might be
Kenneth
the first
Branagh has done one.
Macbeth. If he hasn't, he needs to get on there. Yeah, that's another thing. Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet. That's like 4 hours. But I thought it's very handsome to look at. I think I love Denzel, and I think Denzel's a great actor. But he was very, very Denzel.
Yeah.
Denzel as Macbeth. I'm not so sure about Frances McDormand. Again, I wouldn't say that she's bad because she's not bad. But yeah, I wasn't thrilled by her. I had to look it up. I think the guy who comes across the best in Macbeth is this Alex Hassel guy who played Ross in the movie because I couldn't remember the. I thought he had the most intriguing kind of role to me, and I thought was. Of course, I don't know that I've seen that guy in anything else, but I thought he was really good. But I'm not sure. I guess what I'm saying is I throw that guy a Best Supporting Actor nomination or something. I thought he was excellent.
It also has Brian Johnson in it.
Yes.
Always good to
Brian
see
Thompson,
him.
Yeah.
Brian Thompson, right?
Yeah, Brian Thompson.
Yeah, sorry. Brian Thompson. Always good to see him.
Love to see him. Yeah. And Brendan Gleeson, I like seeing him too. He's in it.
For sure.
He's in it. But it's good. Probably needs a rewatch at some point.
Yeah.
And probably need to watch some other Macbeth adaptations as well.
For sure. The last movie I watched was Coda. And I know you watched this one too. Coda, I was worried it was going to be really like saccharine and like over sweet and just kind of like schmaltzy, and I was surprised that it didn't come off that way at all. I mean, there is a heart to it, and there's a few times where I was getting a little verklempt. I don't know if you noticed, but I was getting a little verklempt when I was watching it, and I actually liked it. I liked it more than I thought I would like it. So I think it's like, I don't think it's like a best movie of the year, but I think it's a good rendered movie, and I think it's interesting to kind of see this view of someone that grew up with a family that has hearing disabilities and stuff like that. And I know it's kind of come under fire with the way it renders that, and I'm sure everyone's experiences with that are different, but for what it is, I kind of liked it. I enjoyed my time with Coda.
I liked it as well. I think it's a very solid movie. I mean, I don't have a lot of big criticisms with the film. And maybe it's a little bit by the numbers. I mean, I don't think you don't know where it's going, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because it's very well put together. It's well acted. And I think the father in the movie got nominated. I can't believe the daughter didn't get nominated because she really carries the movie and she's excellent. I haven't seen, I didn't watch Lock and Key, so I haven't seen her in anything else, but I think she's wonderful in the film.
Yeah,
I mean, everybody is, but she's really good.
Yeah, her character's different. Definitely, she's bringing something different to Coda than she was with Lock and Key, because Lock and Key, I kind of get like a more like more teeny, kind of like dismissive, more kind of valley girly kind of thing to it, more like CW thing to it, and I didn't get that with Coda. So and she put in the work for it too. I mean, she did. She learned to do ASL and she learned to sing. So Yeah, I was really, again, wasn't really looking forward to watching it, just because I thought it was just going to be too schmaltzy, and it did, and I was pleasantly surprised that that wasn't the case.
I think I've kind of felt the same way. I thought it's going to be too saccharine and schmaltzy. I agree. And if she learned sign language for that part, I would never know it because she looked like she'd been doing it for years, right? I mean, she looked like a pro at that sort of thing. Of course, then again, I don't know ASL, so she might have been doing it poorly, but it looked great, But I'm sure she wasn't doing it poorly. I don't mean that, but
you get to learn some new phrases at ASL.
You do some interesting slang
might help you going forward. So, that's what I've been watching. So, I know we spent some time on it, but it's stuff that we both watched. So, we watched Nightmare Alley, Tragic Macbeth, and Coda.
Yes. All right, Mr. Nicholas Meyer fan.
Yeah.
What did you decide to pair with Time After Time?
All right. Well, I was looking for another Nicholas Meyer movie, and there's a movie that he wrote before this movie came out. He actually wrote the novel and the movie itself, and that is The 7% Solution. It also takes place in the late 1800s, around the same time that Time After Time does, at least before it goes to 1979. So that's what I decided to pair this with, was another Nicholas Meyer written movie called The 7% Solution. So stay tuned Wednesday for that. All right, guys. Well, that was our show. That's everything we thought about Time After Time and what we've been watching. Please like, subscribe, share, do all that social media stuff. It really does help spread the word, and we really do appreciate it. And stay tuned on Wednesday when we figure out if it's the 7% solution or if it should be a little bit more solution, maybe 79% or 80% or 99%. I don't know.
Or 0%.
Or 0% solution.
Or 0% fresh.
Negative percent solution. Stay tuned for that on Wednesday, and we'll see you soon, guys. Bye.